Good afternoon from the Porsche Pro over here at Porsche Ocala. I'm Scotty, and I'm going to be showing you today how to work the all-new 2025 Porsche Macan EV. Now, this Macan EV in front of us is going to be, of course, the Macan Turbo. I always like showing all the different features available on the car. Of course, 630 horsepower on this absolute monster of a car. And, of course, I've been getting a lot of questions depending on the colors on this. This is called Copper Ruby Metallic. I think on the video right now, because the sun is kind of just went away for a second, it looks black, but it's a really sharp car. Of course, we're going to be going over all the features on the car and how to work a lot of the operations on the vehicle. It's absolutely gorgeous of a car. Starting off with the key. Of course, we do have a new key design on the vehicle, so we can see, of course, we have the Turbonite badge at the top. In order to pop the trunk, there's a couple of different ways. We can, of course, hit the button at the front most of the key. We have unlocking, locking the car, and popping the rear trunk. I'm trying to get the focus. There we go. And then on the underside, we do have our panic alarm right over here. This little switch, which used to hide the blade of the key, is now only used for replacing the battery. Of course, we will have an instructional video on all that stuff. But going out throughout the car, of course, it's very easy operation on the car. In order to unlock and lock the car, it's very simple without even having to pull out the key. We have this little indentation right over here. We just touch that to lock the car. And then to unlock the car, you just reach for the door handle like you want to open it. And now the car is unlocked. So pretty cool. Opening up the charge ports, of course, we do have two different charge ports. You just kind of push on it a little bit. And you can see on the driver's side, we do have AC charging and DC charging right over here. Pretty darn cool. And then on the passenger side, we have only AC charging. Now, you can only have one door open at a time on here, so I'm going to push on it. It's going to close the other door, and then this one opens. So that little hesitation is entirely normal, but you can charge at the home on either side. But, of course, at the fast public chargings, 50 kilowatt or higher, it is going to be the driver's side primarily only. Pretty cool there. Going over to the trunk of the car, if you already had a gas-powered Macan, popping the trunk is going to be somewhat similar. Instead of it being on the windshield wiper stock, it's right next to the camera. So we have this little button right over here to pop the trunk. And while we're in the trunk, we have a lot of new buttons. So, of course, to fold down the seats, you can fold it down from the trunk now, which is fantastic to me. Of course, one on each side. Or you can still do it the previous way, which is folding it from the rear seats, a little handle on top. This one does, of course, have the 115 three-prong outlet in the back, which is really darn cool. I'm very happy to see that in German cars. Very nice. And then, of course, with the air suspension, we have this little button right over here, which is called drop frame. Now, drop frame lowers the rear axle of the car down in case you got to load in something really heavy on the car or something really big, so you don't have to lift it up as high. Of course, we have our charging cable right over here. We're just going to shove that aside here. And we have our Bose surround sound subwoofer right over here, but very, very important, we have our wheel lock. Of course, very important to know where that is, as well as our tow hook cover. Hopefully you never need it, but it's important to know where it is. Now, closing the trunk, of course, we have two buttons over here at the top. This button will close the trunk, and that's it. This one will close, then lock the car. But you have to kind of stand near the car as you hit this button. If you try to walk away after hitting it, it'll do like a key check to see if the key's nearby, and it says, oh, what happened to the key? And it stops closing. So I mainly use this button over here. This button also has another function. If I want to adjust the height of the tailgate, I just move it and then hold this button. It makes a tiny little chime to let you know this is the new maximum opening height on the car. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now, I did mention there is another way to open it. Let's see if I can get it with my foot here. It's set off the middle over here on the right-hand side. Oh, first try. Look at that. And then again, to close it. Now, the front trunk, or frunk as a lot of people have been calling it, is also pretty easy to open. Once again, we can use the key fob to open it. But there is a hidden feature that's on a lot of Porsches that a lot of people don't realize, and pretty much any car that has a frunk. So right below the badge on the front, you just kind of drag your hand across. And let's see if there it goes. And now the trunk is open. Not really much to discuss over here. We have like a little dividing tray, so if you want to put something in there, it doesn't slide around, you can put it in there. We have our battery terminal stuff right over here, and our windshield wiper fluid over here. And beneath this little compartment, actually I think it might be even in here, is going to be brake fluid and such. It might be, I think it's still on the top. Of course, we have to close it the traditional way, pushing on the badge. And that's about it for the outside. So let's go ahead and finally hop on in this puppy. As we come inside the car, of course, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your seats all nice and adjusted, and these do have the 18-way seats. Now, if you have less buttons, it doesn't mean the function changes, it just does the exact same. So, starting off, we have forward, or back technically, forward, back, height, tilt of the front part of the seat, as you can see that, and pitch of the back here. Everything else, if you think of it in relation to these two buttons, makes a lot more sense. So this is way in the front of the bottom part of the seat, and that's our leg extension. And it makes sense. This is directly above the bottom part of the seat, and this is our thigh bolster. So this squeezes in this little section here and hugs you in right along the thighs. This button's in front of the pitch of the back, and that's going to be your side bolster. Pretty cool. And then we're all the way in the back, of course, we have our lumbar support, which pushes on your lower back. Pushing it forward, probably can't see it, but it's very subtle, extends it out, and pushing it up and down, of course, would move it up and down. It's actually two little air cushions, so to inflate the upper one or the low one, but it makes it feel like it's moving up and down. It's a lot easier to explain it like that. So, of course, once we have that all set, the next thing we're going to probably want to do is our steering wheel. Very simple controls. This is located on the left-hand side. Just up, down, out, and back in. Simple there. Well, let's fully get in. Of course, the car starts itself being an electric car, but I am just going to hit it just to make sure it's all nice and happy. Once we have everything set, of course, we're going to still be adjusting our mirrors, so this is all the same from other Porsches, left and right. And this little dial to actually adjust said mirror. Once we have that set, we're going to go up top and hit set. Then number 1, number 2, number 3. No problems at all. Now that same seat adjustment that's on the driver's side, and of course saving it, is the exact same on the passenger side. So you can have your driver and passenger both, of course, have your seat memory. Coming back over here to the driver's side, we have how to fold in the mirrors. I currently have the car set to fold the mirrors when you lock the car automatically, and that's no problem. We will have a video, of course, on how to do the settings on the car once we sell our first one, and hopefully I have a time frame I can sneak it in and show how to do all the settings. This little button is child lock. So what this does is it locks the rear AC control panel, doesn't turn it off, it just says they can't control it, they can't adjust it. It also, of course, locks the rear windows and the rear doors, so they can't get out, of course. It is a full child lock for animals, kids, or a mixture between the two, I guess, somehow. Right over here, of course, we have our windows. Very simple, down to go down, and up to go up. These bottom buttons are, of course, how to pop the front trunk is right here. Obviously, you have to get out and close it manually, but the rear trunk can be opened. I know it's probably hard to see, but I guess I'll show it over here. And if I hold it, it'll close it. And all I did to close is I held this button. You have to hold it for the entire time. Coming over here to the headlight operation, I'm going to go ahead and peel off some stickers here so we can see some stuff. Headlight operation, just leave it in auto. That's really all you ever need to worry about. But when you hit it, you can hit it multiple times and change its function. So right now we're in automatic light control. Low beam is manually turning on the headlights. Parking lights is more of a European thing, but it is dangerous to leave it in this mode because it can drain the battery. The lights will stay on even if you turn off the car. So, and then we're back to automatic, of course. Our power button on the left-hand side, of course, as is tradition to have it on the left-hand side for Porsche. But instead of a twisting key, we do just have the push-button start. And, of course, a little sticker up above that. A lot of people always ask about that. That is the speed limit of your tires. So it's the speed rating depending on the tire type. And they say, please don't exceed 150 miles an hour. But, of course, just recommendations. Coming over here, we have our turn signal switch. So let me get the car to drive so I can turn the steering wheel. Turn signals are the same as they are in pretty much any other car. We have our little movement for lane change. And then, of course, if you click it all the way down, it'll turn and reset itself. This car does have automatic high beams, and you activate those just by pushing the whole stock forward. And you get this little logo that pops up. Sorry, the camera focus today is terrible. To turn it on or off. Now we come down to our cruise control functionality. Now, this one is slightly different than it was before. So all we do is we have this little button at the end over here that turns it on or off, and just like before, we have all the different functions, and you typically just leave it on adaptive cruise control. I know the camera is not wanting to focus. We have adaptive cruise, which speeds up and slows down. It's your cruise control. The speed up and slows down based on cars in front of you. Speed limiter is limiting your top speed. Think of it like a governor. If you set it at 50 miles an hour, you can travel anywhere between 0 and 50, but it won't let you exceed 50. And then hill control, if you can find a Florida mountain, I'd be happy to see it work. But it's for crawling down extremely steep mountain hills and stuff. And then fully off. So once you have it in adaptive cruise, it's a very simple function. All you do is drive up to the speed you want it at yourself, like 75, 85 miles an hour, and just lift up or down on the stalk to set the speed. And think of it like this. I want to go faster, you lift it up. I want to go slower, drop down the speed. The other functions are pushing it forward cancels it, which I just tap my foot in the brake, and resume pulls it towards you. This little toggle switch in the middle, and it can be activated from the front or the back, is how you control the distance to the car in front of you, like how closely you want to follow. And then this little button over here, which you'll see the little tiny logo. It's so hard to get this camera to focus today. There we go. So this is what controls the lane departure warning. So right now it's on, and if I hold that button at the bottom, it disappears and turns it off. Simple as that. Coming over here to the left side of the steering wheel, this is all going to be the same from other Porsches. We have our voice commands. You just tap it and say what you want it to do. Of course, if you have CarPlay active and you hold it, it will activate Siri. Android Auto, of course, as well. Next station. Previous station. Actually, this button's programmable. It's referred to as a joker button by a lot of the Porsche community, but we can assign this to multiple different functions, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Then we have our volume switch right over here, or down over here. Like I said, this is a brand new car. Stickers are still on it. So coming over to the bottom part of the steering wheel, there's always a hidden switch that a lot of people aren't aware of, and that's the heated steering wheel button. So we hit this little button right here, and we get our little message that says heated steering wheel is switched on. That's about it there. Now we start getting into something that's slightly more complicated. Well, not quite yet, but we have answering and hanging up phone calls, of course, and that's really easy. They both do the same function. But now we get into these three buttons, and this is probably the more complicated bit of the car, because once you really have it set, you're probably never going to change it, and then it gets forgotten. But this little switch, all it does is it jumps this little white highlight right over here between 4 or 3 different zones, depending if you have heads-up display or not. So we're going to be left, middle, right, and heads-up display, which it's just not going to show up. So I can't really show this on video. You can see it's kind of freaking out on camera, but to me it looks perfectly fine. So on the left side, if I were to be on that side and then spin this wheel, it changes what I see on the left. And it makes sense. So, of course, we have our speed limit of the road that we're on, G-force meter, of course, resistance to change in motion, tire pressure, and then, of course, battery percentage and battery temperature. So, very nice to see that stuff. Then we're in the middle one, and I'm going to go all the way to the tippy top so we can see all the different options. We have the more traditional recuperation and battery usage while you're driving, and, of course, the speed you're going. Coming down one. We have what our active cruise control sees. Our map, which I know it says not available because I still have to get through this little message over here. This will be a big map. And then, of course, I call it reduced mode. So it's just the bare minimum of what you need to see while driving, which is just the speed of the road that you're on, and, of course, the speed limit, as well as our range down below and whatnot there. So we're going to go all the way back up to the top. And then the right-hand side, we have, of course, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this message. So I'm going to hit OK. There we go. Get rid of all this. Continue as guest. And go online. There we go. So navigation gives us a nice little compass. And, of course, while the destination's going, it gives us more information. Our trip computer information. And if you push in, so watch what I'm doing here. I'm pushing this dial in. It allows me to change kind of the parameters. And I'm going to have it sense charging, so we can see what our kilowatt usage and things like that. Obviously, it's extremely high because we're just got this car in. Sports chrono lap timer. And, of course, our music right over here. And kind of our little general display. So just date, battery percentage, 12-volt battery percentage, and, of course, our phone information. So pretty cool information you get there, and that can all be customized as well. Down beneath there, we have our sports chrono dial. And this is really nice, of course, the most important button probably on the whole car, because whenever you turn on the car, you're always in normal. Twist it to the left, you enter off-road mode. You can see our ambient lighting change in regards to that. And when you change driving modes, you have all these little different things pop up on your dash that you can change. So this will raise up the suspension height, this will turn on our sport electric sound, and this will raise the spoiler. So right now I'm in off-road, of course, for off-roading purposes. Back to normal for comfy. Sport mode sharpens up the throttle response. Of course, it's going to turn on electric sports sound. It's going to drop the suspension down to give it a better center of gravity, make our steering a little more heavier, a little more direct. And then Sport Plus is even more so. Once again, change it at 100 miles an hour, change it at 0, but of course do it within the lawful standards. I guess I have to give that disclosure. Now we get into the gear selector. So the gear selector in this car is pretty easy to operate if you don't go hunting for it. You'll know where it is because you can see I can't really see it right here, but instead of looking over at it to operate it, instead look to the bottom right of your gauge cluster. So it tells me P is right in the middle of neutral and drive. So that means if I want drive, I'm going to push it down. And now I'm in drive. And if I want reverse, that's all the way up. So I just go, there's neutral, there's all the way up. And now I'm in reverse with my surround view cameras. And then park is just P. I'm now in park, and we're good to go. Now, park on this car, that button right there, also works as an emergency braking. So, God forbid, if their driver becomes incapacitated and you're in the passenger seat, you can grab the steering wheel with one hand, steer the car, and press and hold P with the other hand and stop the car. It will override the gas pedal, or I guess the throttle. It'll override everything and stop the car nice and safely, but quickly, very quickly. So from there, we're going to talk about the windshield wiper stock. This is still all the same from Porsche, of course. In order to put the car into automatic windshield wipers, all I do is I do a test push. So I just shove it all the way down, and it springs back up. Oh, that means the windshield wipers are turned off. So from there, all I do is I lift it up one position. So I just went from this off position to intermediate. Now, intermediate on Porsche is automatic. So that's it. This little dial over here is the sensitivity of automatic, and that's this little codex over here. So I turn it to about 2 or 3 and just leave it there. Washing the front windshield, I pull the stock towards me. And washing the rear windshield, I push it away. Little dry back there, but there we go. Turning on the rear wiper, which we don't really use much in Florida, is going to be this little guy right over here. And that turns it on and off. That's it. Very simple. From there, we'll talk briefly about these vents. It's very simple operation. That closes it, this opens it, and anything in between. Of course, you just move the vents wherever you want them to point, and that's about it. Pretty darn simple. Hazards right there, and of course, disabling traction and stability control is right over here. If you have Sports Chrono, and you hold it for just a tiny second, it will loosen the traction and stability control system. So you can have some fun, but it'll still bring you back. And then if you hold it for a long time, it fully shuts it down. Of course, this is going to disable other safety features that require automatic braking, but if you're going to be tracking the car, this is probably for you. Very rare, though. From here, we have our wireless phone charging tray right there. So you just lay your phone down in there, and it'll charge it. There's even a little air vent in there to help keep it cool. If you use wireless phone charging, you know it can get your phone pretty hot, especially if you're doing it with Apple CarPlay, which I don't recommend. Here, now this is going to be hard to show, this little hole right over here allows you to, from down below, you can see 2 USB-C charging ports. Well, you can feed a cable through the bottom here, through that, and charge your phone right in there, so you have better access to it, of course. Pretty cool. That's about it. And then, of course, we have our cup holders right over here, and that's it. Now we get, of course, into our AC and climate control functions. We have temperature for the driver's side, temperature for the passenger side, fan speed for the driver, fan speed for the passenger. Well, I like to hit auto, because what auto does is it maintains the fan speed and where the air needs to come from for us. So all I have to do is tell it I want 75 degrees, and the car will handle the rest. Then all I do is I hit synchronize to match the passenger side to whatever the driver's side has, so it's always the same. We have front and rear windshield defrost right there. Air recirculation right over here. We have ventilated and heated seats, which of course is mirrored on both sides. Then we have this little switch right over here in the middle. Now, flicking it up puts it into max AC for hot days, and it blasting it works quite well. AC on is the normal mode. Off lets the fans keep running, but doesn't use the AC compressor. So, we probably don't want that for Florida. From here, we have a button called Climate Menu. Now, this brings up the other settings on the car for controlling, of course, the ventilation and everything like that, like where you want the air to come from if you're not in auto. I'm not going to bother with that. There's no point, because I leave it in auto all the time. If you want the fans to blow stronger in general, just kind of have a more direct flow, you can hit strong, of course. Pre-cooling and heating has other settings, but this isn't important for the initial day. And then, of course, we've already mentioned our volume control right over here. So pretty cool stuff. I'm peeling off the screen protector here real quick. And now we're going to get over into, of course, the overhead console. Now, this one's incredibly easy. It really is. Rear with a little light symbol, lo and behold, turns on rear lights. This little light turns on both. If I want them individually, I just touch them. This little button can only go two directions. It can go back or forward. Well, our moonroof screen can only go back or forward. Pretty cool. So we're going to let that puppy go all the way back. Now, the glass itself is operated with this little switch over here. So we have the screen here, the glass here. And it can go four directions. It can go up by pushing it up, back down by pushing it again, back to go back, and forward to go forward. That's about it. The SOS button, hopefully you never need it, but if you ever get a flat tire, run out of charge somewhere, or have any sort of major issue that makes the car undrivable, or you need a tow, or even if you just need help, you forgot how to work the windshield wipers, you hit this little button down, hit the SOS button, and it'll call, of course, the Porsche call center, and they'll get you all taken care of. Now we're going to get into the main infotainment system on the car. Now, if you're familiar with the new Porsches, this is just going to be an evolution of what we already have, which is nice. This is our first Android-based system, which is, I think it actually works a lot better. I really enjoy it. But if you notice, the symbols that are on the left, and these are the core functions we're going to go over today, our symbols on the left match the symbols on the main screen. So if I were to hit navigation here, yes, we'll turn that on. It does the exact same thing as if I were to hit it over here. Now, let's start off with navigation. We're already here, so if I want to go somewhere where you got all these little symbols that don't really make a lot of sense, and that's okay. This is just settings. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here to this little magnifying glass. And I apologize for that kind of effect, the strobing effect you're getting on camera. It's just the nature of LEDs. So what I'm going to do is, okay, if I've already been somewhere, it will be listed here. If it's somewhere I haven't been, I'm going to hit this little guy right over here. I'm going to open up my little keyboard, and I'm going to type in something like Cracker Barrel. Ah, okay. There's all the local Cracker Barrels. There's their Yelp ratings, everything like that. And you can see in relation to where you are, where they are. So I'm going to go to number 2.
Now turn left, then turn left.
And this tells me what percentage of battery I'll have when I arrive, how many minutes away, how many miles away, what time I'll arrive, and if there's any traffic information. And then, of course, the directions on everything there. Now, obviously, this information is going to pop up on my heads-up display, which I know you guys can't see. It just looks like Mario's Rainbow Road there. It's wacky. And, of course, it will also pop up over here on the dash if you want it to. All sorts of different functionality, everywhere you want it to be. You can't really miss it. Now, if I don't want it anymore, I just hit this little guy. Now it's gone. Simple as that. Now we're going to talk about media. Once again, I can hit this button, or I can hit media. Media, in my opinion, has gotten a lot more responsive and works a lot faster, which I absolutely love. Now, right now, I'm on FM radio, and I think that's pretty obvious there. And if I didn't want to be on FM, well, you're going to hit this little symbol over here. That's the only thing that you really got to pay attention to. So to change the source, you hit this little guy right here and choose if maybe you want Sirius XM. It's going to load that up for me. Great. Simple as that. We're good to go. Okay, well, we have all these different stations, but these are recommendations. Okay, well, how do I get a list? You can see there's lots of different things I can do over here. I can go next station, previous station. Well, you can even hit categories and see everything, but this is where I come to pretty much do everything. It's a pretty interesting to work system initially. So, let's say I want to see everything about this song. It's right here. If I want to see a list of stations, I can hit this little guy right here. If I'm on this page and I want a list, I would scroll down to categories and hit all channels. And if I wanted to favorite a station, multiple ways, but I would just press and hold it and hit the little star symbol. That's about it. If you ever can't find a station, you look for a magnifying glass right here. And I'm going to hit don't allow, but I would type in classic vinyl maybe. I'm not even going to type the whole thing. Oh, it already found it. It's really fast. And now I'm listening to classic vinyl. Simple as that. This page is one that probably takes the most getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fast. And once again, it can all be operated by voice commands. It's so confusing mainly for the fact that it has so many features. So if I come in here and I want to rewind and fast forward a station or go next and previous, they got to be able to stuff all that in there somewhere. Pretty cool. Of course, phone is usually the easiest page on the whole car. Once you connect up the phone, it really is pretty darn basic. You'll see contacts for your contacts, keypad for a keypad, and call history for your history of calls. That's about it. And of course, you can answer calls, as we already discussed, by tapping the phone button on the steering wheel, and of course, hanging up the same way, or you'll see a pop-up on the screen if somebody calls you. The last main function we're going to talk about is going to be the little picture of the car. And this is where I come to, once again, to customize drive settings, which I can change drive modes right over here. But maybe I want to be sport mode with a normal height suspension and comfy suspension. And you can do that. And then if you want to save that as the default, you can, which is pretty cool. We're also going to come over here for our safety functions. Right now, of course, this would be if I want to turn on and off a cruise control, which we know how to do it by the stock now. But all of our additional functions. So speed warning, doesn't make a sound or anything. It just, if you have the speed limit on the left-hand side, as we showed on the gauge cluster, and you were to exceed it, it kind of puts like a little red highlight and pulses it to let you know you are exceeding the speed. If you want an acoustic warning, you would have to turn on this one, then this one, but we don't want to do that. Warning and brake assist, so God forbid if somebody were to brake really quickly in front of you and you weren't paying attention too much, that will, of course, warn you first, and then if necessary, brake quite aggressively. Lane keep assist, of course, will help keep your lane composure, so it doesn't let you make the mistake, it makes sure you stay in the center of the lane. Lane departure warning waits for you to make the mistake before correcting it, and you can turn them on or off whenever you wish. Emergency stop function is, of course, that park button function that we told you about. Proactive occupant protection, of course. If it detects a possible collision incoming, it will start closing windows, tensioning seat belts, closing moonroof, and preparing the car for an accident and trying to protect the, of course, occupants. Intersection assist is if you're going through an intersection, maybe you got the green light, but some jackwagon ran the red light, and it can says, oh crap, you're about to hit him, it will try to stop and prevent that accident. Distance warning just lets you know you're following too close. Lane change and turn assist is your blind spot. Brake recommendation, if you start getting a little wavy and kind of a little tired, you're getting drifting around in the lane, it'll tell you, hey, maybe take a little break. And distraction warning, if you start looking down at your phone or you have a habit of doing that while driving, it'll say, hey, pay attention. Trip computer is trip computers. We have multiple. And once again, these are all able to be accessed in the dash, as we saw over here. Oh, there we go. Let's get that over there. Pretty cool. And then comfort is where we come to customize a lot of different stuff. For the most part, communication lighting, which is all of our little ambient lighting, can be changed to show you greetings when you get inside the car, when you change drive modes. You can see all the farewell stuff, launch control stuff, which I mean, you know we got to show that. Come on now. So foot of the brake, foot all the way down. And you can see it kind of pulsing and turning blue. Pretty cool. Got to show it, right? From there, of course, locking the car, unlocking the car, everything like that. It'll do a little animation. Egress warner, which is warning if you're backing up and you're about to run off of like a small cliff or something. Lane chain assist and turn assist for your blind spot. Just lots of different settings. And then, of course, ambient lighting, which this is a little something interesting, which we're going to show. We have already like our normal set of ambient lighting colors over here, which is about the same as it was before. But if I come over on the homepage into themes, we have a lot more. Now, themes changes the background color and kind of theme of the infotainment system. So if I make this green, it'll be green. And then if I pair it with ambient lighting, now the ambient lighting matches that. So we actually have a lot more colors than we did before. I think that kind of matches the copper ruby of the car. So we'll leave it right there. From here, we have one other function I really want to discuss, because this is new for the Porsche electric cars. It used to be quite a difficult combination of departure times and charging profiles in order to set a limited charge in the battery, because on electric cars you should really only charge between about 80 and 85% on day-to-day usage, unless you really need to go on a long trip. Now before, it was kind of a pain in the butt to set it up, but now it's just this little slider. So if I want to only charge to 65%, okay, you just move the little slider down. I'm going to leave it on 80 because that's where I think it should be. Departures, what it does is says, okay, you're going to leave at 9 a.m. every morning. We'll have the AC cooled off and the battery set to the optimum temperature for best performance when you get in that car at 9 a.m. Pre-cooling and heating, the easiest way to really think about this is remote engine start. When you unlock the car, it will automatically start cooling the car to whatever your desired temperature is. Seat climate control will also, depending of course as needed, turn on the heated or ventilated seats. And pre-cooling, as it says, when you unlock the car, it'll start doing it. Pretty cool. We have other pages to select through. We're not really going to discuss much of these today. Of course, bows to adjust the treble and bass on the sounds and everything like that. And then, of course, just legal information and stuff like that. But that's really going to be the majority of the car. Garage door clicker, of course, that's the one you pretty much got to call me for, or, of course, hopefully figure it out yourself through the owner's manual. It is quite an interesting process with all the different garage door companies out there. But let's go ahead and head over into the back seats here. One other little function is bottom left-hand corner. You can open up the charge ports here, the trunks from here. So it's just something important to know. But let's go ahead and show off the back seats. There's really not much to discuss over here, but I want to show you how to fold the back seats from the back seats. So of course we have this little switch right here. Fold it down, feels spring loaded. If I want to fold down only the middle section, well, you reach in here and just yank it. And then, of course, we have our cup holder right there. I like that it actually latches in. And, of course, we have our climate control for the rear, which is the exact same controls we have for the front. So, really nice set of combinations of how the car works. Really nice things they learned from the Taycan and improved on it. But if you do have any questions about this car, please feel free to contact me or post a comment, of course. I'm always happy to get you guys all happy and taken care of. But I look forward to hearing from you soon. And hope you're enjoying your Macan EVs out there. Take care. Bye.